Well, no, yeah.
Am
So
I audible?
that is why we asked Deborah to talk to us today. Deborah is the program manager for the Rocky Mountain Employee Ownership Center's Home Care Cooperative Program, now piloting. Deborah, I'll let you say a little bit more about your background, but we've now got how many? Okay, we got some folks here now. Why don't we start and let me make sure that you can share your screen. Is that
Yep.
workable?
hmm
Okay. All right. Then I'm excited to see what you've got, and I know people are going to want to know how you are building this complicated thing.
That's the wrong share. Hold on.
Okay.
Take two. I'm sure
Okay.
y'all want to see my inbox. What a delightful thing to not. Okay. Thank
Let's
you
see.
so much,
I'll be
Elias, for having me. And it's
okay.
good to be back with this group again. I've had the opportunity to listen in on some really powerful presentations from this group. And I just love the idea of the community of practice. So thank you for inviting me to be a part of it today.
Sure.
Um, view, let's do slideshow. Okay. All right. Whoop. Let's go to the beginning. So introduce myself. So my name's Debra, and I am with Rocky Mountain Employee Ownership Center. Min Sun, the executive director, gave me this incredible opportunity to launch Colorado's first home care cooperative because it's an issue that's very personal to me. So my background is in organizational development. I think I started my first program, which was a food recycling program in my middle school, and was involved in a lot of things even before and many since. But my mom was actually a caregiver out of necessity, like many folks who become caregivers. It's not necessarily their what they wrote on the paper for what they want to do when they grow up, but a burden that falls on to them out of necessity. And that was the case for my mom. She needed to make additional income after she and my dad split. And so she ended up starting as a caregiver. And by the time she passed, she had 20 at any given time, 15 to 25 caregivers that were working for her in an informal, unlicensed agency.
Hmm.
And she worked herself into the grave, quite honestly. And the last 18 months was brutal. And it really kind of gave me an experience with the underbelly of our home care system, our care system. And I just kept finding myself thinking, there's got to be a better way. And when Min Sun presented me this opportunity, it kind of clicked that if my mom could have been a part of a home care cooperative like what we
Hmm.
are building
Hmm.
in Colorado and the other ones that exist across the country, I really believe she would be with us today. Um,
Um,
and so that's why this project is so meaningful to me. And unfortunately, this is not an uncommon story. Caregivers, I can tell you, even among our founding members and across the movement, it's not uncommon for people to work themselves into the grave. And I think there's no question about the value of caregiving. It's just another example of where our economic system doesn't reward that work because it's predominantly done by women and women of color. And um, so, really, the home care sector, what we're going to talk about today, we're going to do just a really kind of short, brief, quick and dirty presentation about what we've been doing and the greater home care movement, and then really just have some time for conversation and thought partnership. I'd love to hear from you all what you can share that will be informative for us as we move forward as well. So that's kind of the gist of it. Um, I know folks in this crew are very familiar with RMEOC, so I won't spend a lot of time here. But part of our team here, we've got Elias and we've got Erica and we've got Ari, and together we do a lot to build the employee ownership ecosystem in Colorado, supporting businesses with conversion and incubation projects like the Homecare Cooperative, a lot of research, technical assistance, etc. So specifically worker-owned home care cooperatives, that's what we're here to talk about today. And what does that look like? I think there are some very specific reasons why home care cooperatives have proven to be really an effective solution to some of the greatest challenges of our time as it relates to aging, especially with the majority of people wanting to age in place and be able to stay in their communities, connected to the fabric of their community. And unfortunately, for the many of the reasons that are discussed in this group, our system's not really well set up to do that. And so the cooperative model's been really great at addressing the deficiencies in the home care ecosystem. Why is the question? So, like with most any other sector, the co-op model is incredibly successful because instead of having the hierarchy, where you've got the people at the top, oftentimes that get there not by any merit or knowledge or frontline experience. And then you've got the cooperative model, which is very much more circular. So you have people all with equal skin in the game and equal decision-making power that bring a wide variety of lived experiences to problem solving. So it's not dissimilar to the reasons why cooperatives, particularly worker-owned or employee ownership in general, but especially worker-owned cooperatives, outperform traditional businesses in a variety of ways. So the landscape, as I mentioned, here in Colorado, we incorporated in January, and will be the 29th home care cooperative operating across the country. And the really beautiful thing about the movement is there are cooperatives that are, the oldest has been operating since the early 80s. They now have over 2,000 caregivers. They, in very urban places, very rural places. The co-ops that incorporated this year are in Nebraska and Tennessee. So the cooperative model in home care spans politics, geography, socioeconomic status, and we're incredibly proud and grateful to be able to build on the infrastructure that's been put in place over these last 40 years. Our Colorado Care Cooperative will be a member of the Elevate Cooperative, which is now a secondary cooperative for co-ops, which is, I think, a huge contributor to the success of the movement. It's not only the demand and the need for this type of solution, but also that we have this national entity as a secondary co-op that can really help with the flow of information. Right now, the number one thing that our founding members need is healthcare, not unlike anybody else, but to actually have their own health insurance. And so through Elevate, we have access to benefits that, they're able to aggregate the benefits. And so we can go to market as a larger entity, as opposed to right now we have our 14 founding members. So that's just a little bit about the kind of national landscape. Also, Erica is on, and I would invite you, Erica, to please jump in at any point. She did so much of the legwork that set me up to step into this project with doing interviews and research. And so, Erica, please jump in here because you've got a lot of information that I think would be incredibly valuable. So, like I mentioned, I want to spend just a few minutes talking about specifically why cooperatives, worker-owned cooperatives, have proven to be so successful in the home care sector. There's some things that I think are not unique, but some that are pretty specific. So, co-ops pay more. So, on average, the data that's been collected, I think, do you know, Erica, by chance, how long Elevate's been doing benchmarking? It's been many years now, but consistently over the years and across the geography, home care cooperatives are able to pay higher wages, average $2 per hour higher across the country, the cooperatives across the country. Turnover rates. So in the home care sector, the turnover rates are like upwards of 80% even, as you can see, in high 70s. And it's almost half of that in the home care cooperatives. And I think that reason, of course, is not unfamiliar to folks who work in the co-op space. When people have actual autonomy over their work, a say, we find that that's actually even more than the ownership stake itself. People are really much more likely to stick around when they can have the autonomy to do what they need to do to take care of their clients, and they don't have somebody who's never been a care worker themselves that somehow just decided to buy an agency or somehow has risen to the level of management for a private equity firm that's giving orders because their directive is to, maximize the profit. Of course, people are going to get burned out because they're being treated like commodities. So it's not, the same old that we see across all sorts of industries with our kind of broken system is showing up in home care. But I think the reason why the cooperative model is particularly effective in keeping caregivers is because they spend so much time with their clients and they intimately know what their needs are and they build really strong relationships. And so to be able to have them say, we trust you. We trust you not only to do your job and make decisions about the care of your client, but then to bring what you've learned back so that we can make our internal policies better, so that we can change the things that make us more nimble and able to better serve the individuals, our clients, the seniors and individuals with disabilities. I think that's really what makes people feel like they have job satisfaction. Because in full transparency, I think, it's a pretty slim margin industry for, especially if you want to serve the most vulnerable and be able to serve folks on Medicaid. And the margins are very slim. So the incentive for caregivers to join for the distributions, the dividends, the patronage dividends, I think is outweighed pretty heavily by the folks that we've talked to who are part of the sector, and certainly with our founding members. The reason why they are so invested in this, they've now been working to start the co-op since August. And the reason that they keep showing up and putting in the hours is because they want to be able to do the job that they are passionate about doing in their way, with the ability to have a seat at the table where decisions are made. So all that to say, I think the democratic model that is employed by worker-owned co-ops is particularly effective in delivering better results to the clients in the home care space. And that shows up in retention as well. The co-ops tend to have higher retention rates of their clients. They stick around almost twice as long on average. Just a little bit about the Colorado landscape. I know this group is international, but we are specifically talking about the Colorado Care Cooperative, and so just wanted to give a little bit of background. We've got a rapidly aging population, the vast majority of whom have at least one chronic disease. It is a $2.4 billion industry. Unfortunately, that income is not distributed fairly to the people who are doing the work. And unfortunately, the people who are private paying are not necessarily getting the greatest value for that money. But it is a huge industry, which is why you see private equity firms so eager to gobble up the home care agencies across the country. In Colorado alone, there are over 7,000 facilities. And the wages are not even sufficient for living wage in Denver. And that holds across the state in urban and rural communities. The wages are really insufficient. And so you have 49% of the home care workers that are relying on some sort of public assistance. I'd love to say, I don't want to put you on the spot, Erica, but again, because you did so much of the work on the research and everything, I would just want to see if there's anything you want to add that kind of sets up the landscape for why the home care is a good solution.
Yeah, and I would like to highlight that even at the legislation level, the workers came together to try to bring up the wages, right? So they have the stabilization board that they created in Colorado to pass legislation to support them. And they've seen some improvements with the wages, but not as much as they would have wanted to see. So the cooperative model comes in as a way for the cooperative to redistribute the profit to the actual workers instead of the owners of the agencies that we're seeing right now in Colorado that just tend to exploit the workers. There is that extra level of difficulty when they work with Medicaid and the reimbursements are low, even the agencies will complain that they don't have enough to cover the workers. So the cooperative model at least allows for that distribution to be more in favor of the workers than the agency owners that tend to take all of the profit at the moment. So, but there has been effort from the workers themselves to fight against the current system, just that the co-op emerges, and that's why we saw so much interest when we started organizing in Debra as well. You saw that many people signed up. It's because they saw the light of the hope of how can the co-op change something that even at the legal model we were not able to change. Like even with the state support, we were not able to change. So that's my 2 cents of this.
Yeah, thank you so much, Erica. That context is super helpful. And we have several of our founding members who are on that state standards board. And so, yeah, it really is both. And then, yeah, thank you, Erica, for putting the benchmark report in there too. Super helpful. And then we're going to speak a little bit to the way in which we're entering the Colorado ecosystem, because not all the players are bad. And so we also want to make sure that we're really focusing our attention on filling gaps. But we'll get to that in a second as well. But by and large, what you see is a lot, especially of the ones that are earned by private equity, like any other asset. They see it as just that. The people on both sides of the equation, the clients and caregivers, are just commodities. And so that's why I think co-ops have been so successful in competing against them. Okay. So just a little bit more about, I guess, summarizing these benefits to the home care workers, specifically is the higher wages, better working conditions, the transferable skill development. So as I mentioned, our founding members have been meeting since August, working on everything from the bylaws to how the branches will operate, because we are launching a statewide home care agency that will have a Class A license. So that means that we can do both medical and unskilled care. And so they've been working really hard. By the time that we get our license, I think it's fair to say that each one of these founding caregivers will have an MBA from the School of Hard Knocks, because right now, for example, we're doing business plan development. And what that entails is them going out into the field and surveying potential clients to find out what services are most necessary, what their threshold is for price point, et cetera. Again, a huge shout out to RMEOC's role as the incubator and Erica's help with us making sure that this survey is, both going to be functional for collecting data, but also going to be helpful in putting together this business plan and putting together services that will really fit the needs of the community and the skill set of the caregivers. And then, of course, it is the opportunity to be an owner. We have folks that are shifting their mentality from, thinking about things on both sides of the table, especially since we are also working with SEIU. It's literally people wearing not only the normal multiple co-op hats, but at this point, all of our founding members are also the bargaining committee. Well, not anymore, actually, that's not fair to say. But in any case, so folks are really getting the experience of thinking about from both the perspective of their membership ownership stake as well as the worker experience. And of course, that's the beauty of a worker-owned cooperative. For clients, again, what we hear most, and I'm sure folks, most everyone has probably had an experience where you have a loved one who has needed care at some point, you yourself have needed care, or you will. That everyone falls statistically into one of those categories. And so the continuity of care, having caregivers that are well taken care of so they can show up for you, these are the type of benefits that we see in the benchmark report that Erica put in, and what we hear anecdotally. It just makes sense. When people's needs are taken care of, they can be better caregivers. And that's really the goal, is to help people be able to age in home with the support they need to stay connected to the communities. And here in Colorado, we hear a lot about people who are leaving rural communities that they were born and raised in. They fought very hard to raise their kids in, and now are having to move to more urban places because there's no care. They don't have a child that's there to be able to take care of them. And so this is not just a matter of, this is a systematic level that is going to, if we don't fix this, if we don't address it, it's really going to reshape the rural urban landscape here in Colorado. And I imagine that's not dissimilar to other places across the country. So that is why we are taking a statewide approach. Right now, we have founding members in the North Central region, in Northwest region, and the Front Range region, and Southern Colorado as well. And so that's our approach, really, is start with where we have caregivers. We put out a bat signal. We have 52 folks apply on the Front Range because originally that was our plan, was to start in the Denver metro area. But it became so apparent so quickly that there's economies of scale and that there's a real benefit to taking a statewide approach, so long as we're really attentive to making sure that each regional branch is really grown by the community itself. So that's why we're starting in the places where we have caregivers who are founding members. They're the best connected to their communities to know the needs of the folks who are our potential clients, as well as to recruit caregivers. And so when we get our license, which we hope will be in June, we will be launching in 3 parts of the state. The southern part of the state, where we currently have 3 founding members, in the western slope part of the state, where we have members from Aspen to Mesa County, which is really interesting. If folks are familiar with Colorado, it's kind of the tale of 2 cities. We, down to Trinidad, where we have, and Aspen's kind of like a resort high. Probably folks are familiar with Aspen, even if you're not from Colorado. So those are kind of the variables that we're working with, and we're trying to figure out these details of how money flows between these branches, what the wage differentials are. And this is no small task, for sure. But again, this work is being led by the caregivers themselves. They're the ones who are having to grapple with, well, okay, so in my community, we can charge $200 an hour private pay for these people who have 5th homes here. But then there are people who are trying to age in place that don't qualify for Medicaid and don't qualify for Medicare. And how do we serve their needs as well? And then how do we make sure that our folks who are in the southern part of the state, who the vast majority of potential clients are Medicaid eligible, although that's part of what we're looking to do, is support people in getting access to those benefits, because that is a barrier in itself. But these are the type of things that our founding members are grappling with. So it really is a collaborative mind trust, with folks coming to the tables with a very wide set of experiences and needs, quite frankly. Just a little bit about our founding members. I know we're running, we want to get into some conversation real quick, but I have to give a shout out because, like I said, these 13, now 14 folks have worked so hard over these past months since August to really put the foundation in place for success. 8 of them in the Denver metro area, wide range of experience, especially working with Medicaid and Medicare clients. In the Northwest region, we have 2 founding members, the Aspen and Grand Junction. Very different, but they're both really well established with lots of relationships in their communities. And then in the South and Central region, we have 3 founding members from Trinidad, Puebla, and Colorado Springs. Really, each brings an in-depth understanding of the care needs in their communities. Overall, as a group, there's over 200 years of cumulative professional caregiving experience. 12 out of the 13 founding members were women or non-binary, 6 are women of color, and 3 identify as part of the LGBT community, and all are really committed to serving those who fall between the cracks. We did incorporate as a public benefit limited cooperative association. One thing I just wanted to lift up that's really important in the way that we're approaching it, again, because we have, so we are talking with SBDCs and folks in the economic development space, people in the human services. And I think a lot of the folks at chambers and SBDCs are really protective of their local grown home care agencies. And so it's really important as we enter into these ecosystems that we're doing it in a way where we're being additive and we're not stepping on toes or being duplicative, but rather trying to fill the gaps. And so that looks like, for example, right now we're in conversation with a home care agency owner in one of the mountain communities about merging and what that would look like. In others, we're talking about how we not step on your toes. Of course, they're very quick to say, hey, if you want to focus on serving Medicaid clients, they're all yours. Please, by all means, we'd be grateful for you to come in and do that. I think we have an advantage with RMEOC as our C3 sponsor. We have the ability to bring in some funding sources that that just regular home care agencies don't have access to. And I think, quite frankly, until there's a societal shift where those services are more compensated in alignment with the value that people understand that these services provide, but the money is not matching that right now. And until that happens, I think there's going to be an ongoing need for philanthropy to step up and fill that void. And, as a home care cooperative that has a C3 partnership, we're uniquely positioned to be able to bring in philanthropy to fill that gap. So that's a really big part of our go-to-market strategy, and it's going well so far. I think, especially when we look at place-based funders, they understand the needs because many of them are facing it with their own parents. So they get it very clearly, and they get that the math doesn't math in the current market. So especially in rural Colorado, our approach really is like talking to anyone and everyone to help us map the ecosystem and then coming up with a plan of entry that enables us to be additive versus duplicative or stepping on toes. This is just an example of what it looks like, but in San Juan County, we had a person who reached out and was like, please come. We've got people who can private pay. And, so then it's a matter of like connecting the workforce development piece of it. What is the infrastructure for training folks? And if there's nothing there, then we're in conversations with organizations that do CNA training programs. One even has a mobile program. We're looking at doing a joint fundraising grant to be able to have their mobile CNA training to do the kind of the hands-on part of it that's required for licensure. So we're getting very creative about in places where there's the demand and even the private pay capacity, but the gap is the workforce, the folks. Then there's piggybacking on what's existing in places that have CNA programs, and then talking with partners who have the ability to bring in those programs in the places where they don't exist in a relatively short time frame. And then just where we're at. So, again, Erica and Minson and RMEOC did a tremendous amount of research and legwork. SEIU did a lot of survey collection, a lot of surveying their founding members. A vast majority of our initial founding members came from CCWU, which is Colorado Workers United, which is an affiliate of SEIU. We had a founding member application window with over 50 caregivers. We had 9 folks that we brought on before we decided we really needed to go statewide. And then we brought on another 5 caregivers to our founding member team. We've been successful in getting funding. The Next 50 Foundation came in with a 3-year grant. That's a game changer for us. And we've also received support from the Colorado Workforce Development Council. Again, they're really supportive of that. Our effort to make these livable careers with transferable skills, but so that people don't have to be working full-time, many 80 hours a week and still needing public assistance, which is absolutely a crime. As I mentioned, we incorporated as a public benefit corporation, and we have submitted our application for licensure, which is very exciting to get our name in the queue. And that's for a Class A license. And that's upon hiring a director of nursing and our administrator. Sorry, brain's acting a little slow. And we hope to be able to serving clients by the end of June with a Class A license. So that's kind of where we are, and there's lots of ways for people to plug in. And that's it. I'm going to stop the PowerPoint and kick it over to Elias to kind of facilitate conversation.
Wow. Hey, congratulations. I mean, I know you're not done, but the amount of work that is behind what you and Erica just described just is incredible. So everybody's going to be watching this, this is really kind of exciting. So you're going to get a lot of free advice, I'm sure, is going to be coming in as you put this together, which is great. That's fine. That's fine. Sandy's got a question.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, great. Okay. Okay, I have a bunch of questions, but how do you relate the C3 input to the cooperative?
Great question. So I work for RMEOC as I'm the co-op developer. And so, prior to bringing on the administrator for the co-op, pretty much I was the bridge, and now Allison and I, who's the administrator of the co-op, we meet 3 times a week. And so everything is still very much interjoined. The funding that we received all came from RMEOC. RMEOC's initial funding, and then it covered my staff time to do everything from recruiting the founding members. And so it's a really interesting process. I think it's different than the incubations looked for some of the other RMEOC projects, because the founding members are coming with a skill set and experience where a lot of the responsibilities that might be held by a co-op developer for much longer have already been turned over to the co-op. And so it's really a lot of thought partnership, a lot of us working alongside each other. And now that the director of nursing has come on board, it's also kind of then navigating, okay, now she's shifting to take on the clinical pieces of it. And, she said that the policies, we had to put together like 18 policies as part of the application for the CDPHE license. And she says she's been through many surveys with different entities, and she's never come into a survey with such strong policies. And that's because they were built by our caregivers. We used ChatGPT for a structure that aligned with the legal requirements, but then it was the 200 years of experience of our caregivers.
Wow. Right.
So it's a very collaborative. I'm not sure if that quite answers your question.
Well, I was thinking more financially. In other words, is there any C3 money that is financially coming into the co-op? Because this is a continuing problem, is relationships between co-ops and C3s.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and I think we came into that very wide opened eyes. And so transparency has been the key thing, so that when we submit a budget to a funder, everybody's clear. The co-op is clear what money is going to them. There's line items specific to administration, and then my time as well. So I think for us, the biggest thing is making sure that everybody is signed off on board before we submit funding application, and that there's clarity on how the money is going to be utilized. We had the benefit of some funding that existed before the co-op even started. And so we had to go back and renegotiate that. But I think it's really important that to avoid some of the conflicts that we've heard happening, if everybody preemptively can make sure that there's alignment on how every penny that's coming in is being spent, and that the tracking and accountability is in place, so that okay, this portion of the money is a direct to the co-op. This is how they're going to create the tracking infrastructure so that we can report back on that income. And here's the money that's flowing through RMEOC. Does that answer it better?
Yeah, kind of. It's obviously complicated. Yeah.
I
Thank you.
mean,
Yeah.
it all is really very complicated, but to be honest, I think, there's a missing out on a shit ton of, resources sitting on the sidelines saying, where do we go? And really that's around like the reimbursement models, like, uh, and the current frameworks for those reimbursement models, which are, you know, last mile oriented, at some point, if you're going to get like the 3.3 million from Maha, or if you're going to get like, so you got to deliver that last mile in order to actually get that funding. I think you guys are in a great spot for Maha funding. Have you thought about it? I mean, it closes in like 17 days.
Yeah, I think actually the Elevate is going after that money. And so again,
Okay.
that would be something that will benefit the greater movement. But yeah, to your point, Blaine, and Blaine is working in Boulder. It has an incredible experience in the tech space, and I think is very interested in kind of how we bring that element
I
to the
created an
co-op
LCA
mission.
like in March 10th.
You what?
I created an LCA March 10th.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, I just,
congrats.
file with the state, whatever. I don't know. No one's saying thank you. So I'm just doing it, right? I mean, whatever, who cares? And I built a tech platform on top. I'll certainly, offer more than, what's currently viable. Omaha is scheduling, like, people like, home care visits become reimbursable. Why? Because they're valuable. And how's this all, happen? Like, who does it? On the co-op. Yeah, the co-op, right? This is how you start a co-op. This is what you do. This is what go. This is how you start getting educated. This is all the things. Family app, care calls. Like these things aren't that hard, particularly when they're digital experiences. I mean, look, I agree that the last mile needs a co-op infrastructure to be different. Capitalism has run amok. It's worthless, it's extraction. 60% of it's going to shareholders. It's just simple. Like, can't be doing it that way anymore. Sorry. And part of doing that way is actually having, the customer service thing locked up. You can't, if you just go through the onesie twosie story, like, we're not going to get anywhere. I mean, we have 25 co-ops after 50 years? This is insanity. Should have a gajillion.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's my 2 cents.
John, you have a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to say how happy I am to hear about this. And I'm going to switch over here to self-promotion because this illustrates perfectly a chapter from my book, which deals with organizing healthcare as a series of guilds.
And this is not a topic that's in lots of books, John. Can I insert and just say yours is one of the few books I've ever seen that even contemplates this. So anyway, I'm sorry.
Well, thank you. And this is one of the instances that shows how it really works.
Yeah.
But the expansion of it and the problems I hear you talking about are problems of licensure. And my theory is that the guilds would be empowered to license their own practitioners, to determine their own training standards, their own operational standards. And the reason this would work, the thing that makes it work, the key is, so they could hire me as a brain surgeon, because I work cheap. But they probably won't, because if I do something wrong, they don't sue me, they sue the co-op. And so Elias is going to say, I don't think John ought to be our brain surgeon because he might cost me a lot of money. So I can see and this is what I wrote, I can see medicine organized as guilds that select their own members, that determine their own qualifications, and for lovers of the free market, could therefore compete. They're competing guilds.
And hard to hard to put on the chopping block if you got ownership across everybody. I mean, you really going to take us all to court, really?
Yeah.
The one thing that's
So
interesting.
I put in the chat a link to that chapter from my book if anybody is interested. So, and forgive the self-promotion, huh?
Yeah, no, thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
I think what's interesting that we've come up against that's even different than other states that are launching home care cooperatives is the licensure requirements and the supervisory requirements specifically for the Class A licensure. And for us, that's really important in terms of the continuity of care. We want clients to be able to stay with the co-op as their needs accelerate and as they age. And I think that's one thing that will hopefully benefit us of having the experience of SEIU and their successful lobbying power. But right now, I mean, it's making it prohibitive for even folks that we would love to be able to be part of the co-op as employees to be able to join the co-op because of that supervision requirement for the delegated medical tasks. So
let's just do digital supervision. Let's just do like AI supervision.
You can't. I mean, that's not. I think when you get into
we're going the other way.
The classification, like at least currently you can't. And so when you get into the licensure requirements for supervision, it's not something that you can do digitally. You need a director of nursing that's going to go out and meet with the family and do a proper intake. And so that's what I think, Blaine, there's so much opportunity for technology to make.
But maybe you could have technology so a neighbor could do, you know what I mean? Like start building like a whole ecosystem.
Well, so I mean, I think that there's a point where you could use it in a way that it could make it maybe overcome even some of the rural barriers or whatever, but there's also a point where there's something lost, when it's being used to circumvent the personal nature of home care is very much an intimate relationship and in many ways necessarily so. We've had really interesting conversations about a robot being able to provide home care, but I do think that the importance of the relationship. Yeah, Elias.
I got a question about Elevate. I'd like to know more about Elevate's role. That's a national kind of umbrella in a way. And are they like the back end of the new co-op, or how do you work with Elevate? And say a little bit about who and what they are.
Yeah, so Elevate's the national secondary cooperative. So they're kind of like the umbrella organization for those now 29 home care cooperatives across the country. And there's a lot of they've built a platform. They have services available, that a traditional secondary co-op often provides. For example, if we go through them for QuickBooks, we can get a discount. So they're not going to keep the books for us, right? We still, actually, our partnerships through RMEOC is going to be keeping the books as they train the in-house capacity of the co-op. That's that kind of role of the co-op developer. But Elevate has a discount for, things. I think the greatest value, they do an annual conference where everyone from throughout the country comes together. And that's that info share that just can't be replicated online either. It's the experience of hearing the stories from a caregiver in a co-op who was founding member, 15 years ago. So that info share of the national conference, which is coming up in October, actually, we can share information out about that as well. They do have they are providing the ability for people to do their website. And so I think, again, like our founding members have an incredible depth of experience, and so we're not necessarily utilizing all of the things that the Elevate offers. But I think the greatest value is the thought partnership. So they have a group that is for administrators. So all the different administrators can kind of talk about the issues that they've come up against. Does that answer your question, Elias?
Yeah, and one other quick thing, just on Sandy's point about the nonprofit and for-profit balance. From the research that Minnesota and I and Matthew and that Erica helped us with on social co-ops, we figured out that they come out of a culture, usually in places like Italy, Quebec, where there are local, often city contracts that are providing some of the revenue. And the sense that we got from this was that they all agree they want to move away from that to a hybrid model. in the US, a hybrid model is tricky, right? The IRS says, make up your mind. What are you, right? So what if you want to be something in the middle? Oh, well, we're not sure we know how to deal with that. So it's a big experiment that we've launched here to try to figure out, could you create a social enterprise for the public good that generates independent revenue, but is not strong enough economically in this environment to stand up by itself, frankly. Maybe just at the beginning, but maybe even thereafter, so that you wind up needing grants just as you're generating good revenue on the other side from a variety of local customers. But it's something like that. That's a pretty tricky recipe, but it seems like it's something like that we're going to have to learn how to deploy.
Does
that make sense?
there are these things called accountable care organizations, right? I mean, they're every freaking where. And
Yeah.
and they're capitated, and there's things called PACE, they're capitated environments. They get paid a lot of money to do things. And they have a lack of the same things that you have a lack of, which is enough home care. Like it's all the same, but the co-op is the right model in the end for the distribution of the last mile. And like all of these organizations suffer the same. So you could do a lead or a car model with an ACO in any of these towns.
Yeah, Debra, what are your thoughts on that question?
Yeah, the public benefit corporation, I think, was designed in Colorado to kind of try and circumvent it, but it doesn't offer the same tax break.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I think, the barrier is at the end of the day, a lot of philanthropists, a lot of foundations are talking about, this program related investment and such, but they're not really writing checks to for-profit entities. They still want their tax write-off, or they want that money back. And so I think you're right that needs to be figured out. I think it would help.
Does Elevate help with that in any way, in terms of passing through revenue, or is that all with RMEOC for the moment?
Yeah, for our co-op, it's all RMEOC.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
We actually just had a conversation with Elevate a couple weeks ago about how they could kind of serve the same that RMEOC has done for the Colorado Care Cooperative for other cooperatives, because there is a ton of money that is being left on the table. That not all government is willing to, there's a lot of money on the table.
I'll do it. Let's go.
I see Brother Remy has a comment in the chat. Remy, you want to chime in here?
Well, I mean, there's a lot, and I'm going to have to leave a few minutes early for a hard.
You're a Colorado native, right? Although you're in Alaska.
Yeah. I grew up right across the street from North Boulder Park in Boulder at 825 Kelwood.
Yeah, bro, let's go.
Personal secretary.
And you're in Alaska?
For Don Culver.
Yeah, he's in Alaska.
And I'm in Alaska. And she was the first woman to ever have, a single woman, divorced woman, unwed woman, to ever get a mortgage to buy that house in 1974. And so in this space, since the 50s, the 60s, my dad's family moved to Colorado in the 1850s. So this conversation is right on time. In fact, we started our aging advocacy business in 2010, anticipating that there would be more of us working and coming to this space through this time from 2020 on. So if I have anything to offer in this little bit of time now, it's yes and. Like, bring everything you got, all your vulnerabilities, all your skills, and we really need to then show up and see what other people have to move this stuff forward, because it is moving at such a pace that to be able to slow it down and practice all the care and all the storytelling and all the housing and all the listening that actually delivers in this space. I don't want to have everybody get so swept up trying to fight for the money and fight for the logistics and fight. Now's the time to really practice. So I want to be very, very encouraging of all of you to open up all the potential on what this space affords everybody else.
And it's really first principles on that. I mean, honestly, just go back to first principles and reconstruct, and you'll find the infrastructure doesn't exist. And when you we have a blue ocean here, man. We could really make something happen. I'm on board.
Yep.
Thank you.
The thing you were describing, Ramy, as Debra was describing it too, all that time that you're able to invest in the client all that relationality, that's the competitive edge. That's what we don't want to make efficient, right? Because when you do the research and you ask the owners and the recipients of care who use these social co-op models in other places, how do you like it? Is it working? They say, this is the top. This is the gold standard. We don't want to do anything different. We want to keep doing what we're doing, right? So that's exactly the direction you're going in.
And I think there's another layer, which is, occupying community and in the framework of neighbors, like and how that applies. And
Yeah.
if we just if you keep digging like meta down and meta up, somehow the world will collide on our terms. But
I think it's a both end. It's using the technology that is available but from a person-centric view. I think that's kind of what you're saying. And I will say a good way to, the first week in April here in Colorado is Caregiver Appreciation Week. And so, it's one way that, if everybody just takes a moment to think about the folks who have done informal or formal caregiving for them. And if anyone in Colorado or for folks who have relationship in Colorado, as I mentioned, we do have this survey that we're trying to spread far and wide with potential clients of the co-op, but to also gather data that will enable us to launch with the services that are most needed and most helpful. So we'll share that out as well.
Cool. Wonderful.
What's been the role of SEIU up to this point?
So SEIU has been a thought partner since the beginning. As I mentioned, I think it was 7 of the initial founding members. We did huge recruitment. I mean, I sent out to 80 plus organizations across the Denver metro area to recruit caregivers. And we had over 50 applicants. And at the end of the day, doing a blind application process, the vast majority, I think it was 7 of them, 7 or 8 were members of CCWU. So they, from the beginning, and they've really been thought partners. I mean, they've really been instrumental thought partners. And, it's not all cherries and puppy dogs and you know what I mean? There's definitely been some tensions we've had to work through and we'll have to continue working through. But overall, they've been a tremendous thought partner. And I would be utterly shocked if the founding members didn't elect to unionize from the inception. And once we actually get folks on W-2.
We're going to keep up with you on this project because you're building the new thing, one of the new things that we need so badly. And this is such a great start. Congratulations again. Thank you everybody for chiming in here. And thank you for Erica helping us out and everybody that visited. And we will see you next month, first Wednesday, and more of the same. Everybody stay well. Stay strong.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Everybody, thank you.